I rented us a cozy little cottage in Vermont to reconnect. Apparently, she thought reconnect meant unlimited Wi-Fi, overpriced wine, and her coworkers' tongue down her throat. That was my first big mistake, believing that a weekend in the woods would somehow reset things. Should have known that some people come to the countryside just to hide their version of connection behind the excuse of fresh air. I drove the 250-mile Saturday morning. The winding road smelled of pine and diesel and something nostalgic. She was supposed to meet me there Friday night. Her version of romance was a curated Instagram moment in a log cabin with fake fireplace smoke. Instead, I got a text at 2 a.m. "Running late, see you morning," accompanied by a selfie of her by the lodge reception. Bright eyes, fake smile. I arrived at 10 a.m. with a cooler full of groceries and that familiar tingle in my gut, the one that says someone's already gone cold. From the parking spot, I could see the cottage, small, vinyl-clad, 2 windows watching the woods like blank eyes. The door was shut. No cars besides mine. No neighbor to witness my arrival. Exactly. She'd pick up the key code mid-text apology, flash it, and let me in with wine breath. Inside, I found the first clue. No phone anywhere. She insisted on a no-phone weekend, claiming it was part of the rental policy. That was the second mistake. I believed her, or at least pretended to. The phone beside the bed, in the bathroom, in the living area was gone, like someone ditched it at the front desk. She said it was for the sourdough starter she was trying to bake in a place with no mixer and certainly no oven thermometer. Suspicious, yes, but I flipped my phone to silent and played along. We had lunch on the porch overlooking a small pond. She wore her hiking gear even though it was 86 degrees and sunflowers were lashing against the screens like they were bored of being polite. She'd been checking her watch every 5 minutes, claiming it was for that sourdough thing. That's clue number 2. Watches to hide watches. Excuses to mask expectations. That night, she said she'd gone hiking alone. No big deal. She locked the windows behind her. I sat by the fire pit, staring at the flames. I noticed 2 used wine glasses sitting on the coffee table by the hearth. I'd bought 1 wine bottle. 1 glass should have matched in size and smear. 2 glasses meant someone else had been invited without my invitation. I didn't yell. I didn't pack. I just sat there, sip by sip, while the cabin lights flickered around me like soft illusions. When she got back, muddy and smiling, she collapsed on the couch. I didn't say anything. Just set the glasses in the sink later and washed them separately. Quiet acts of documentation. Next morning, the towel rack was empty. All the towels, but 1, were gone. She claimed she'd done laundry. Claimed the 3rd toothbrush was mine from last winter. I picked it up, blue bristles, unbranded, cheap. Her brush was fancier. So, clue 3 and 4. I knew what was happening. She was having someone over, using the no phones excuse so I wouldn't timestamp her texts, slipping towels into laundry so I'd think she packed light, using kitchen excuses so I'd let her roam free. So I did what any coder would do. I pretended to leave. I packed my truck, but instead of heading to the grocery store, I turned it around and parked in the woods. I grabbed a folding chair, binoculars, my old DSLR with silent shooting mode, and hiked back to the cottage, crouched in the pines. I watched through one of the windows. She couldn't see me, not through the dusty glass. Around noon, they appeared. Her coworker, mid-30s, hair gelled like he'd just shredded at the climbing gym. He had her wrapped in a warm, confident presence. She leaned in, laughed, dropped her ring finger, slipped the ring off quietly. She draped her wine glass across his. Long sip, long gaze, long quiet before the door closed on the overhead hall light inside. I stayed until they heard a branch snap beneath me. They froze for half a second, hearts throttled. I backed away slow. Didn't give them a show. Didn't snap a confrontation. I walked out of those woods, got into the truck, left the key code taped beneath my sunglasses holder, and drove back to town. What I set in motion next would be slow, legal, and final. But I let the silence fill the cottage first. 2 glasses, a missing towel, and her coworker's cologne lingering near the window. That was all I needed. Then I called the Airbnb host. It turns out the host was the local sheriff. Rural Vermont means everyone's connected, one way or another. I explained she'd brought an unauthorized guest, possibly illegal substances. I knew about the stash she'd hidden in under-sink jars. I spoke calmly, clipped, emotion-free. That night at midnight, there was a knock at their door. Two deputies in headlights. The villa of romantic betrayal became a crime scene under rustic beams. I didn't stand outside to watch. Instead, I walked into the cottage at dawn, tucking files into my laptop bag. I'd filmed everything from my vantage point, 2 hours of high-resolution footage of them through that window. After, I sent it to her parents as a small thank you gift for hosting their wedding. I left the key on the kitchen counter, no note, and drove away. By the time they woke up, I was gone. By the time I got back to my place, the storm had already started. 2 missed calls from her. 1 voicemail. Half a dozen texts, each shorter and more frantic than the last. Are you okay? What happened? Did you call someone? Then finally, I don't know what's going on, but I need to talk to you. Please. Please. That was new. I didn't reply. Not right away. I let her sit in it. Stir the mud she'd made. I imagined her waking up in that cozy little cabin to the sound of a sheriff's knock, wine-stained sheets, and her coworkers still half-naked under the quilt I paid for. Poetic, in a rural kind of way. Turns out, Officer Glenn, our Airbnb host and part-time town sheriff, didn't take kindly to renters ignoring the no guests without approval clause. He also didn't like the idea of controlled substances being passed off as wellness treats. I didn't lie. I didn't need to. When I finally listened to the voicemail, her voice had that tight, breathless panic. Not the kind born from guilt. The kind born from losing control. I don't know what you think you saw, but it's not what it looks like. I swear. Please, let's talk. Just us. I'll come home tonight. Just call me. Please. Not what it looks like. She used to teach writing workshops to freshmen on clarity and intent. Funny how the first thing to go when someone's caught is their grammar. No subjects. All panic. I waited another day. Then I texted her 1 word. Delivered. Nothing else. That was enough. An hour later, she called. I let it go to voicemail. Wait, what does that mean? What did you deliver? She knew. But people like her need confirmation. They need someone else to flip the light switch so they can scream at the darkness. She tried again. You sent something to my parents, didn't you? They won't talk to me. My mom just texted me a thumbs down emoji. What did you do? Thumbs down emoji. That got me. There was something so hilariously tragic about it. I almost felt bad. Almost. I didn't respond. She kept texting. I didn't know you were so cruel. Cruel. That word hung there for a while. Cruel is when you humiliate someone for sport. When you hurt them without cause. Without warning. But this was math. Input. Output. She cheated. I documented. She lied. I recorded. She begged. I delivered. The next message was different. Longer. More composed. Like she'd put on a clean shirt and drafted it in notes first. I'm not going to apologize because I don't think you actually want that. I get it now. You wanted to embarrass me. Make a point. And you did. You made your point. But if we're done with the drama, maybe we can be adults and talk about what happens next. I'll be home this weekend. We can do this face to face. I almost laughed. She thought this was the finale. She hadn't even seen the second act. She thought I just embarrassed her in front of her parents. She didn't know I'd also uploaded the video to a private Vimeo link. Password protected. Anonymous email. No traceable metadata. Just waiting. Not for the public. Not yet. But for leverage. See, she didn't just cheat. She broke a system we built together. She took something quiet and real and turned it into a performative fantasy, the kind that only exists on yoga retreat brochures and dating app bios. So no, we weren't done. She got home Saturday morning. I didn't greet her. I didn't open the door. I let her use her own key. Let her walk into a house that felt colder, cleaner, more sterile than she remembered. I'd boxed up half her things already. Not out of rage. Just efficiency. I was in the kitchen when she came in, sunglasses still on, probably hoping they'd hide the bruise of humiliation on her face. She didn't say hello. Just dropped her bag, looked at the boxes, and said, "So that's it?" "No," I said. "That's the start." She blinked. "You seriously want to go through with this?" I didn't answer. I just slid a manila envelope across the counter. Inside, a printed copy of the lease. My name only. Utility statements. Bank accounts. All sole access. Her digital fingerprint erased from everything except the wedding album I left open on the table. "I've already filed," I said. "You'll get the papers next week. Until then, this is just me being generous." She reached for the album. I closed it gently. "Don't," I said. "You don't get nostalgia and betrayal in the same sitting." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "You're being cold," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm being clear." She stayed for 20 minutes. Tried to cry. Tried to rage. Tried to guilt. Each one fell flat. When she left, she didn't slam the door. She closed it like she was afraid of breaking what little grace remained. That night, I opened the wedding album. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to see if the smile she wore back then was ever real. It was. That was the worst part. You can't fake that kind of joy. You can only bury it. And she had. The Monday after she left, I took the day off work. Not to mourn. Not to process. Just to execute. Divorce, it turns out, isn't emotional when you've already disconnected from the person you're divorcing. It's paperwork. Timing. Precision. 3 things I'm exceptionally good at. I started with the basics. Banking, utilities, digital footprint. Everything she once had access to, gone in 2 clicks. I'd already removed her name from the joint checking a month earlier, back when I first noticed the wine glasses by the fire. That wasn't paranoia. That was preparation. She didn't notice. Or maybe she thought I wouldn't go through with it. Next came the lawyer. I didn't go for flashy. I didn't need the aggressive bulldog types who talk like TV characters and charge like surgeons. I needed someone who believed in clean cuts. Enter Miriam Jansen. Sharp, quiet, surgical. Her office smelled like peppermint and printer toner. She wore glasses you don't buy at chain stores and listened like a therapist who bills by the minute. She didn't ask me if I wanted to salvage the marriage. She asked me how many assets were in my name, how long we'd been married, and if I had documentation of infidelity. I slid the flash drive across her desk like a playing card. She raised an eyebrow. Hotel footage? From the window. No audio. All visual. She plugged it into her laptop, scrubbed through 5 seconds, and closed the lid. That'll do. We filed the paperwork within 48 hours. No delays. No back and forth. Just a clean motion of dissolution, citing infidelity and moral breach. "Do you want to pursue damages?" she asked. I said yes. Not for the money. For the record. That's the difference between revenge and resolution. Revenge is loud. Resolution is permanent. By Wednesday, her parents had blocked her number. I know this because she emailed me. Actual email, like it was 2007. Subject line, "Please talk to me." The body was longer than it needed to be. I don't know what else to say except I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking straight. I was trying to feel something again. I know that's not an excuse, but I want to be honest. I miss you. I miss our life. Can we please just have one real conversation before you send anything else to anyone? The kicker? She signed it "Love Always." I didn't respond. Miriam forwarded the email to the clerk's office to reinforce our claim. The best part? She'd CC'd her work email. So now it was in the company system too. Fast forward to Friday. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something told me this one was worth catching. "Hi, is this Evan?" "Yes." "This is Leah from the Human Resources team at CoreVantage. I'm calling regarding some recent developments involving one of our employees. Specifically, Brooke." I didn't speak. Just waited. She continued. "We received an anonymous complaint this week. Attached video, timestamps, location data. We're reviewing it internally, but given the nature of the footage and the fact that it includes someone identified as a workplace peer, we'll likely be initiating a formal investigation." Still, I didn't speak. "You're not obligated to comment, but do you know who might have sent it?" "No idea," I said. Pause. "Well, thank you for your time. If you have any documentation relevant to the issue, feel free to forward it to this address. Discretion is our priority." I thanked her. Hung up. Sat there staring at my laptop for 10 minutes. It was working. The layers. The timing. The slow drip. See, I hadn't just filmed them. I'd also used facial recognition on the co-worker's face from the video and matched it to a LinkedIn profile. Someone in the marketing department she claimed she barely knew. They presented together at a client summit 6 months ago. He was engaged. The fiancé? Found her via a tagged photo at a friend's baby shower. Guess who got a copy of the video? Just a link. No caption. No signature. Just a 43-second loop of her fiancé and my wife in a robe, clinking glasses in front of a fire that wasn't theirs. I never heard back. Didn't need to. By Sunday, Brooke sent another message. This time short. Different tone. "You win. I get it." It wasn't a surrender. It was a deflection. The kind you send when you're not sorry about what you did. Just sorry you got caught so efficiently. She didn't ask for anything. Not money, not time, not closure. She didn't know how to. There's a point where even the most manipulative people forget which mask they're supposed to be wearing. That's where she was now. No more performative remorse. No more vague poetry about mistakes. Just static. The kind that comes after a broadcast ends. At that point, I had everything I needed. Legally, socially, emotionally. But the final act wasn't mine. It belonged to someone else. A week later, her company terminated both her and the coworker. The internal investigation confirmed breach of conduct, misuse of company time, and inappropriate behavior during a client-sponsored retreat. She tried to appeal. They denied it. She posted a vague story on Instagram about toxic culture and disposable talent. It got 6 likes. 3 days later, her account went private. 3 weeks after Brooke's employment obituary hit LinkedIn in the form of a quietly scrubbed profile, I got a message I didn't expect. Not from her. From her coworker's fiancé. The subject line just said, "Thanks, I guess." The body? We broke it off. For years down the drain. But if it makes you feel better, I watched that video 3 times. Not for masochism, for confirmation. You weren't the only one gaslit into feeling insane. If you're ever in town, I owe you a beer. No threat. No drama. No punctuation abuse. Just raw, detached solidarity. I didn't reply right away. I thought about what kind of conversation 2 people like us could even have. An ex-cheater's ex, and the husband who didn't yell. But 2 nights later, I was in town. Business trip. Some random contract with a payment processor in Albany. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I was halfway through a lukewarm hotel beer when I remembered her message. So I replied, "Name the bar." She did. It was a dive, of course. All real conversations happen in dives. No one pretends in places with sticky floors and dollar bill ceilings. Her name was Renee. Tall, blonde, but not by choice anymore. You could see the roots growing in, like she stopped caring mid-meltdown. She wore a sweatshirt with some outdated band logo and didn't bother with makeup. I respected that more than I expected to. We didn't hug. We shook hands like co-workers at a very weird job interview. "Your video cost me a wedding venue deposit," she said after 2 sips. "I cost you less than he would have." She nodded, tapped the rim of her glass. "I didn't cry," she added. "Me neither." We sat like that for a while. Quiet. Processing. 2 people too tired to rant, too burnt to rage. "Why'd you record it?" she finally asked. Because she wouldn't believe me if I just accused her. And because I knew no one else would either. She gave me a look I hadn't seen in weeks. "Recognition. That's the worst part, isn't it?" she said. "The part where you realize they planned this like a heist. And we were just the guards they thought wouldn't check the vault." I smirked. Except I had a camera. She lifted her beer. To surveillance. We clinked. The conversation drifted from vengeance to silence. From silence to dry jokes. From jokes to the strange physics of post-betrayal gravity. How heavy everything feels. How light your bed becomes. How your fridge suddenly holds food you can't taste. "You staying in town long?" she asked. "One night. Heading back in the morning. No rebound waiting at home." I laughed. "Unless you count my dog. And he's starting to side, I mean like he knows too much." She smiled. "That's fair." There was no flirtation. No rebound chemistry. Just mutual understanding from 2 people who used to orbit narcissists and now live on the other side of implosion. Before I left, she pulled out something from her purse. A crumpled envelope. "What's that?" "Old photos. From their last office party. Figured you'd want them." I took them. Not because I needed more evidence, but because having physical proof was like keeping a fire extinguisher, just in case the next blaze got too close. We shook hands again. Firmer this time. Like survivors. Back at the hotel, I laid the envelope on the dresser and stared at it. Didn't open it. Didn't need to. Next morning, I drove home. Passed through the same towns we used to visit together. Same exits. Same bad gas station coffee. It was strange, being in a world that hadn't changed even though I had. I got home around noon. The dog greeted me like I'd been gone a year. No judgment. Just tail wags and the weight of someone who didn't lie for sport. I sat on the couch and pulled up Brooke's Instagram again. Just to check. Still private. Still silent. Her bio now just said, "Taking time to rebuild." I almost choked on my coffee. Rebuild what? She lost a husband, a career, a reputation, and a wedding ring that probably still sat in the drawer of the cottage's nightstand. The one thing she hadn't lost? Denial. I could have uploaded the full video to Reddit. Framed it as a cautionary tale. Let the comments do the eviscerating. But I didn't. That's the difference between revenge and annihilation. One gives closure. The other just burns your own house down. I'd already walked out of the fire. Didn't need to fan the flames. Instead, I opened a fresh document. New project. New code base. Just me, the keyboard, and silence. No more gaslighting. No more half-truths packaged as love languages. Just data. Clean. Honest. Brutal. Exactly the way life should be. It had been nearly 2 months since she left the cottage in the sheriff's cruiser with a towel around her shoulders and a lie on her lips. Since then, silence. Not absence. That's different. Absence means they're gone. Silence means they're watching. I knew Brooke. She didn't vanish. She lurked. Which is why I wasn't surprised when the message came. Not an email. Not a text. A letter. Handwritten. Delivered in a plain envelope. No return address. Just my name in blue ink. I stared at it for a full 5 minutes before opening it. Inside. Evan, I know I don't deserve your time, but I also know that pretending nothing happened doesn't erase what did. I've been in therapy. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I know I used up whatever trust you gave me, but I do want to say one thing, and I hope you'll hear me out. I was lonely, not because of you, but because I didn't know who I was without someone looking at me like I was worth something. You always made me feel like I mattered. I think I started to resent that. I don't expect that to make sense. It barely makes sense to me. I miss the quiet. The version of us before the cottage. I hope you're okay. B. The version of us before the cottage. That line landed with a dull thud in my chest. Not because it made me nostalgic, but because it confirmed something I'd suspected. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted the consequences. People like Brooke only ever miss the version of you that tolerated them. I folded the letter, slid it into the drawer with the others, utility bills, lawyer documents, and a prepaid SIM card I kept for emergencies. Then I got to work. She wanted quiet? Fine. I'd give her silence so complete, it would echo. 3 days later, I responded. One text. A burner number. Package sent. Tracking code below. I knew curiosity would win. And it did. Because 24 hours later, I got a reply. What did you send me? I didn't answer. Another day passed. Then a voicemail. Evan, I just got the box. I don't understand. Why would you send this to me? Let me tell you what was in the box. A printed screenshot of her co-worker's engagement announcement. A wedding invitation, not hers. His. A small, corked jar of ash. The remains of the cottage's firewood, which I'd scooped up before leaving that final weekend. A USB stick labeled, for your records. It didn't contain the video. Just a single file. A plain text letter with the exact timeline of her affair, based on timestamps, receipts, and access logs. Every lie. Every discrepancy. Mapped. She wanted clarity. I gave her a post-mortem. The final piece? A photo of her and me, taken by the Airbnb host when we first arrived at the cottage. Smiling. Sunlit. Her hand on my chest. On the back, I'd written, "This was the last version of you I trusted. Burn it or frame it. That's up to you." No threats. No demands. Just information. Truth. A week passed with no response. Then, finally, one last message. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I broke it. I'll leave you alone now. I believed her. Because there's nothing more dangerous to a narcissist than their own reflection. And I'd handed her a mirror she couldn't smash. The funny thing is, I didn't feel triumph. Not really. Just relief. Like pulling the last weed from a garden you stopped caring about. You don't celebrate. You just stand there and look at the soil. And wonder if anything honest can grow there again. The snow had melted by the time I returned to the cottage. It was late spring in Vermont. The kind of season that smells like thawed earth and tree bark. When you can still see the ghosts of boot prints that never really faded. I didn't go back for nostalgia. I wasn't that sentimental. I went back because the sheriff invited me. Technically, his name was Glenn, but everyone in town just called him Red. A nickname from his firefighting days, apparently. Barrel-chested, slow-talking, and sharp in the way that small-town men are when they've seen enough to stop being impressed by anything. He'd been the Airbnb host. Also the local lawman. Also the guy who'd stood at the front door that night and knocked like judgment in uniform. When I pulled up, he was already on the porch, sipping black coffee from a mug that said retired but armed. He nodded once when he saw me. You came, he said. You asked. He motioned to the seat next to him. No small talk. Just silence that meant something. Place still smells like lemon oil and lies, he said finally. I smiled. You renting it out again? Nah. Decided to keep it off the grid. Too much drama for one fireplace. We sat like that for a while, watching the wind pick up the edge of a tarp over the woodpile. Then he cleared his throat. She email you again? Once. Regret-flavored. Nothing actionable. He nodded slowly. Same with him. Called the station twice. Said you ruined his engagement. I didn't. He ruined his engagement. I just put it in HD. He chuckled. Fair enough. Red wasn't a man of many words, but he had a particular way of asking questions without moving his mouth. The kind of man who listened better than most therapists and judged you less than most friends. So why am I here, Red? He set his coffee down and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a photograph. Not of Brooke, not of the coworker. Of me, standing in the woods behind the cottage, half obscured by pine, staring through the window. Trail cam picked this up, he said. Didn't know until I checked the SD card last week. I stared at it. The timestamp was exact. The moment I first confirmed what I already knew. I looked like I was hunting deer, I muttered. No, Red said. You look like a man watching something die. He wasn't wrong. He handed me the photo. I didn't fold it. Just held it for a while. Why are you giving me this? Because I don't need it. But I think you do. Then he reached under the porch bench and pulled out a small tin box. You left this last time. I opened it. Inside was the ring. Her wedding ring. I hadn't even noticed it was missing. Red watched me, eyes unreadable. She left it on the windowsill, he said. Figured you'd want the last word. I stared at the thing. Small. Cold. Circular. The shape of promises that never really had edges. I'm not taking it back, I said. He nodded. Didn't think you would. I stood. Walked out into the clearing behind the cottage. Same spot. Same window. The one where I watched it all happen. But now it was just glass and silence. I knelt, dug a small hole in the soil, and placed the ring inside. No ceremony. No speech. Just one last burial. When I came back to the porch, Red didn't say anything. He just handed me the coffee mug. It's clean, he said. Figured you'd want to sit with something that doesn't lie. We drank in silence for 10 more minutes. Then I stood. Thanks, Red. He nodded once. Don't come back here again, Evan. I nodded back. I won't. On the drive out of town, I took the long way. No music. Just wind and tires and a brain that finally stopped replaying things. Brooke was gone. Not just out of my life, but out of the version of me that needed answers. I didn't need closure. I needed peace. And peace isn't what you get when they apologize. It's what you get when you stop needing them to. Back home, I hung the photograph from the trail cam above my desk. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Not all hunters carry guns. Some just carry the truth. And sometimes, that's more than enough. Subscribe to the channel